Hi, welcome to Square Ruth. That's my nickname and that's my show. Today is going to be kind of autobiographical. There's a French writer, André Maurois, who said, "Advice is always a confession. You're speaking from your experience." Well, I know a lot about happiness. I have friends who have gotten training in happiness. I read about happiness, something about the field of knowledge about happiness, positive psychology. It's a wonderful field. And what I'm going to share with you today is some things that always help me maintain the decision to stay happy. One of those things is I taught decision making. My husband and I team taught to inmates in the Thresholds program. And so much in life that you don't realize is a decision is actually something you choose to do. We have, in my past episodes, an interview with Scott Lewis. Scott Lewis was a former inmate who, after 20 years of being incarcerated, was proven to be innocent. And he chose to find a way to not let that get to him. And he's a wonderful, successful human being. I interviewed him. He has a wonderful family and career and so forth. And there's a movie about him. If you see my episode on Scott Lewis, you'll see a lot of that. Tina Garrity, one of my dear friends, has established the Madison, Connecticut chapter of the Happiness Club. The Happiness Club is worldwide. There are chapters all over. If you go on happinessclub.com, you'll see a lot about that. Tina happens to be one of my very dear sister friends. Friends who are more sisters than friends. I have a lot of sister friends, and every one of them has a lot of sister friends. It's a thing. So that's part of why I'm happy. Years ago, one of the first things that started me thinking about the choice of happiness is a song. There is a country song, country western song. And I'm just going to give you the title. If you want to hear it, oh, you'll love it. Just do a computer search. It's called, "I Have Tears in My Ears While Lying on My Bed, on my back in bed, while I cry over you." Now, if you have ever had the experience of being, well, we've all had the experience of being very sad. And sometimes it hits you hard while you're in bed. And if you cry, those tears go right into your ears. But this song lifted my spirits. I got tears in my ears. And somehow, what it does is make you smile. And when you smile, as I said in the previous episode about mathematics connected with happiness, which in my mind is a very strong connection, smiling generates a feeling of strength and happiness. So tears in my ears is a little phrase that helps me. Another, this is hugely important, Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins has workshops. He also teaches people how to have a positive attitude. He makes a lot of money doing that. What does he do with it? He gives more things away than many people you have ever heard of. His breadbasket organization, the International Breadbasket, has fed meals to millions of people worldwide. And one thing he does is every single January, he offers a workshop for free. It's every day, you zoom in, and he teaches you about positive attitude and achievement and doing things for others, especially for others who are the forgotten ones in our society. And these go like for 3 hours every afternoon. And you think to yourself, how do you pay attention for 3 hours every afternoon? Well, he takes breaks, and coming out of a break, he said, well, what state are you in? We don't mean Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. We mean, what's your state of mind? And if your state of mind is not amenable to thinking about this and focusing on it, he teaches you how to change your state. He spends a few moments doing exercises, physical exercises, where you remember years ago there was Jane Fonda that they did arm exercises and so forth, but you spend a few minutes physically moving and it's changing your state. So if you are not feeling up to par, do some exercises, walk, stamp, jump, jumping jacks, anything like that. And you will be amazed. I mean, we're talking Tony Robbins here. Tony Robbins is so good at helping people get on their feet and be very positive and achieve things for the world. And he's worth listening to. Here is a point from Tony Robbins. If you're upset, don't say, oh, I'm so angry about that. Say, that peeves me. It peeves me. Now, that's a silly word, and just the silliness of the word peeves can take you out of that funk. Because sometimes when you gripe and so forth, griping is complaining to someone who cannot solve your problem. So you're just letting off steam. That doesn't help you get happy. All that does is get you in more of a rut. But say things like, oh, that peeves me. I taught that to my friends. They get a kick out of that. Now, you need to know about the comfort zone. If you are always in your comfort zone, the comfort zone is a very peaceful place, but nothing ever grows there, including you. Your comfort zone is not the main place to stay. In fact, there's a saying, life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. Push yourself to get out of the situation where you know you've got everything all set and go to the edges, the frontier of your comfort zone. And you'll see different things you can achieve that you never thought you could, because nothing ever grows in the comfort zone. So think about that. Now, I had said I'm going to tell you some things that have mattered to me a lot. One of them is I write letters to myself. Dear self. But with a capital S. We all have a higher self. Some think of it as the soul. Some think of it as your spiritual self. The body that we are in isn't really our full selves. This is like a vehicle that you go through this lifetime with. Some people have a healthier vehicle than others, but you are separate from your body. You exist in your body, but what lives on after your body withers away is your higher self. Now, sometimes if I'm really wondering about something and really feeling under the weather, emotionally, physically, whatever it is, I write, dear self. I'll take a sheet of paper and write 5 or 6 sentences and complain to myself. And then I put that aside for 2 or 3 minutes and I meditate. Meditation is the saying, it's another whole thing. Meditation is a wonderful way to get yourself happy. But I write the letter to myself telling all the stuff that's on my mind about that, whatever issue it is at that moment. There's always an issue. It's like buses. You miss that one, there's always another one coming. You get a few days in between, but you go from decision to decision about happiness. So during the meditation, what do I think about? Nothing. I form no thoughts, and you can train yourself to do that. No sentences, no subject and predicate, nothing. You let your mind go blank because inspiration comes to you. It's got to get past all the fog and the noise in your head. And the only way it's going to get past it is if you clear your head and think of nothing. So then I go back to the bottom of the paper and I write, dear self, with a small letter S, writing back to myself, my everyday self. Wisdom coming to me from who knows where. Maybe it's inside me already, and this is just pulling it out into my awareness. But what gets written in the bottom of that, the bottom half of that page, is all kinds of very inspiring, creative ideas that I need at that moment. I have been writing like this for quite a while. And I've moved on. Sometimes I've learned to write to God, to Jesus, to the Holy Spirit, to the Heavenly Father. That works. That they say it gets all the pathways cleared so you can connect with a higher power, your higher power, God, for me. You can write to a saint. I have a Roman Catholic background, and I have certain favorite saints like St. Anthony, St. Jude, St. Teresa. They're pretty neat. I connect with them. And you can write to a saint. You can write to a guardian angel. You can write to a dear one that you have lost, that has passed away. In Celtic philosophy, the Celts believe that there's only a thin veil between us and people who have passed on. Our dear ones are close to us. There's a connection between us with just a thin veil in between us. So I write to my mother. You might write to a child. My husband and I lost a grandchild about 30 years ago. She lived 2 years. We knew she was going to die very soon after she was born. She wouldn't live past age 2. It was heartbreaking, heartbreaking. But those 2 years were so inspiring. Her little body was in pain, and she had trouble breathing, but she was so courageous. You could see it in her, little Kimberly. And you know, she is a spirit to me in heaven. I connect with Kimberly. We have power outside of us that we can connect with. And you may say, no, it's just in your mind. Well, that accesses me to it. It's real to me. So, and who knows? It may be exactly real. Now, meaning. What does all this mean? Or what do different ideas mean? When someone says something to you, what does it mean? When someone acts a certain way, what does that really mean? Well, we choose meanings. I learned this in a course called the Course in Miracles. It's not a course that you take, it's a book. And at the very beginning, you learn that we choose meanings for everything. Like for me to be here today talking to you, what does that mean? It means something wonderful to me. And what does it mean to you if a parent says something to a child and you happen to see it, or you're that parent? You can put a meaning on it, and you can choose the meaning. The only thing that has inherent meaning is love. Love is love. Other things that were said, things that you heard, things that happened, you can pick whatever meaning you want because the meaning does not exist in it. The meaning exists in your mind as to what you choose to make it mean to you. Every person seeing that event and so forth chooses what that event means to them. So you're free to pick meanings that make you feel better. You don't have to pick the most painful meaning. You can pick what meanings you put on things. So you want to choose meanings that are good, useful, hopeful, and positive. Because why would you pick meanings that are negative? It doesn't do any good for you. I learned something very special about that from my minister, Will Maratti. Will Maratti is one of my interviewees. You'll see him if you go back to see my episodes. Oh, this was about a year ago. He told us about this book, Switch on Your Brain. And he was saying how very important it is. And in fact, he spoke to our church for 6 weeks in a row about content from this book. And At the first time I heard of this from him, I said to myself, I don't need another workshop. I don't need another self-help book. I have a collection. I've been to hundreds of hours of workshops. I don't need another one. But then he made the statement from this author who is a neuroscientist. Thoughts have substance that are proteins. Thoughts don't just float in the air. Thoughts have substances on the level of strings. String theory. If you think of a little millimeter and you cut it into that little millimeter into a billion parts, roughly, it could be a trillion, I'm not sure. That's the level of string theory. That's where these connect. That's where these are on the molecular level, the subatomic level, and so forth. Thoughts affect you. That's why sometimes if you think a lot of negative thoughts, you get physically sick over something. It's affecting your health because it's physical proteins. I said, all right, I'm buying the book. I'm going to the workshop. I've never heard that before. And that was life-changing. This is a life-changing book, Switch on Your Brain. You learn about how to control the gray matter that you have. Now, here's a big deal. You might have a learning disability that you don't realize you have. Attention deficit, dyslexia. I've heard it pronounced dysdexia. I'm not sure, but that was a joke. Dyslexia, autism, and it could be affecting you in ways that you don't really realize. I have attention deficit, and it wasn't until late in life that I paid attention to my attention deficit, because I learned more about it. I went to get checked by a neurologist for sleep apnea, and he said, I have a theory about you. I'd like you to get tested by a neuropsychologist, and she tested me for ADHD. Computer simulations for a few hours and studying my reactions during the computer situations. And the end of the testing, she said to me, she said, you have ADHD to the effect you got industrial strength, ADHD. And I always knew I had it, but I didn't pay attention to it because I thought it was minor. I thought when I go to meetings of any kind, committee meetings or conferences, I'll just take notes and I'm all set. Attention deficit is totally manageable. You can control it with your mind. And if you don't think it's a big deal, well, I was taught when I had that testing done by the neuropsychologist, she said it affects you your entire life from cradle to grave, 24/7. It makes you very impulsive. It makes you have all kinds of trouble making decisions because you don't pay attention to your pros and cons. Me, someone who taught decision making, I didn't realize that that was a problem for me. So you can learn about this. It can affect your whole attitude. You have to pay attention to it, especially if you have attention deficit. Now, this is a big deal. Get yourself tested if you think there's any chance that you have one of the learning disabilities, because it could be life-changing. I've often heard that that happens with people with dyslexia. It opens up their whole life. And I thought to myself, well, I have attention deficit, but I'll just take notes and I'm fine. But I learned a whole lot. Educate yourself about that. It's very, very important. Well, this is the very important thing at the end of today. Kintsugi. Kintsugi is a type of pottery, Japanese pottery. It's broken pottery put back together with gold lacquer glue. And if you do a search for kintsugi, you will see how beautiful kintsugi pottery is, and they're saying that it's because of the cracks that it's more beautiful. It's stunningly gorgeous, and you see either gold or silver lacquer on these beautiful vases. Whole is nice, It's great. But brokenness can be part of how well things are going in your life, and you can feel yourself feeling better. And they say the cracks are very important because that's how the light gets in. That's an important idea. You know what I hope you learned from me today is that it is a decision. It is a decision as to what mood you have. You have total control over that. If you Google Happiness Club or Google Positive Psychology, Google How to Be Happy, or Google You Can Be Happy, you will find the most wonderful, inspiring ways to think differently. There's no need to feel downhearted. It's a waste of time. We're on this earth for just so long. Why waste any of that? The world needs you. The world needs you to be in one piece and get things done to help other people. I've got a book in me that has to come out. That's a very important thing for me. The book is called Mathematics Unanimous. How to get everybody, all diverse populations, ages, and so forth, to be comfortable with math. I need to write that for my sense of happiness, and I'm getting there. I've got to get out of my comfort zone and sit down and do it, because nothing grows here. It's a nice place, but nothing grows there. Well, thank you for being here with me. I hope I've given you some enlightenment. Let the light in. Until next time, this is Square Ruth.